Has anybody been here before? You have?
Yeah.
Why did you? Yeah, I recognize you guys. Cool. Why did you guys come back?
Been there 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Because it's worth it.
You wanted to see an update?
Yeah, I do.
See what I missed.
Cool. Well, I mean, this is kind of like the crappiest the garden can look because, as you guys all know, the summer just stopped here, right?
Right.
And I don't know about you, but we got to 120 in June, remember?
Yeah.
And then it was like in August, it just lingered at 110, 110, 110, 110, and everything started suffering, right? Did you guys have stuff die and just, you're like, God, is it ever gonna end? So now's the time where if anything did make it in your garden, tree-wise or garden-wise, it should start to thrive. And when everybody else in the country shuts down for the winter because of the snow, we can grow the best winter garden of any place in the US besides like Hawaii or something. Okay? So right now, be planting your carrots and your beets and your winter greens. And if you guys have an avocado tree, it's gonna start to put its leaves back out and kind of go for it because it hates the heat. Anyways, how many trees we got so far on our list of 13?
Three.
3? Oh God.
Way to go.
We got moringa, date palm, and jujube. Okay, I'm gonna add the citrus. We talked about citrus. Any kind of citrus is really important to put in your landscape because citrus stays ripe on the tree for months and months and months, right? We're getting into citrus season in a couple months from now, and it will be ripe all winter long. It's great. If you guys have an apricot tree, you got 2 weeks and it's over.
Right.
And you better freeze those or jam them up or something. So citrus will stay there, so whether it's a pomelo or a lime or a sweet lime, which is the really good one, or a tangerine, I love tangerines, or grapefruit. Pomelo better than grapefruit in my opinion. Whether it's blood orange or cara, which is the orange on the outside but it's red on the inside, or it's pink on the inside. Citrus. Are you guys members of my Facebook gardening group?
Yes.
Do you guys ever get like some spam in there?
Jujube,
I get
moringa,
like
date
1,000 requests people a day, and so just sometimes spam gets in. So if ever you guys see spam in there, just tag me and I'll try to get it out. But the gardening group is great because I get a chance to see everybody else's gardens when they share them, right? YouTube, I just see my stuff, that's it. So somebody posted a picture of Camelback Mountain from like 1920 in the group. It was like black and white photo from way back in the day. And all of Camelback was nothing but Camelback Mountain, and it was pecan groves and date groves and citrus groves. There was no mansions or anything. And all of the aqueduct system of the flood irrigation around Camelback, because that used to be all farms. So pecan is another one, 5th tree on my list. Pecan does very well here. And why would you plant anything else other than date, citrus, and pecan when that was what people have been growing here for 100 years? Don't reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Just be really good at using the wheel. You know what I'm saying? So we got 5 trees so far, and we're building our list. Okay? This one's another one right here. See this one giving you a little bit of shade right now? That's a guava or a guayaba. And the guayaba is very delicious. How many of you have never had a guava before? Except for in like a cocktail juice and like a mixed drink or something. I never had before I grew it, and then they ripened. It was amazing. So I got pink guava and white guava. That tree was a little baby one that I got from the Rare Fruit Growers plant sale. azrfg.org, Arizona Rare Fruit Growers. Join the club. It's pretty good. It's a nerdy club about gardening.
I love it.
They meet once a month at MCC, and it's pretty cool. It's like $30 a year to join or something, and great people over there that really just love talking about fruit trees and stuff. Anyways, that was a guava tree from them, and it's now been there for 2 years, right against the fence, and is growing into the light as it has enough strength for it. And below it is a sapote, which I've already eaten a dozen fruits this year off of. It's the first year it's fruited. It's been growing there for 2.5, 3 years. So sapote is not my top 13, but guava is. Guava it stays evergreen. It takes the cold, takes the heat. It's a great, great tree. And if you go to Arcadia, around those old homes there, a lot of them have guavas because they work really well, especially if you guys put the mulch on top. Okay, gardening. How many of you guys are going to do gardening? How many of you guys fruit trees? How many of you guys both? Everyone should say both, right? Because it's a permaculture approach. The fruit tree will shade the garden and bring in stuff that the garden needs, right? And I find that the hardest time to garden is the first 2 years you're a gardener, because you suck and your soil also is just brand new. And every year that goes by, the soil gets better and better, healthier and healthier, and you get better and better. So year 3, 4, 5, you're like, oh my God, everything's working. It's like my dad always said, like his hardest time in his life was in his 20s and his 30s. It was a lot easier to exist in society. And I'm starting to find that. Like my 20s was hard. And now my 30s is a little more chill, I think. Anyways, so the soil, the same thing. So now this soil is a combination of stuff that's been here for years and years. So I just layered this new stuff on top, but the deeper you guys dig inside these raised beds, the more it's broken down into really good organic material. So this is what my soil looks like. And you guys can ooh and ah this if you want to. And this is a combination of really kind of like 4 things. One is compost. It's got to be local compost. Why don't I want you to go to the hardware store and buy the national brands?
It's not local. It's not stuff that's native to this area that plants here need to survive.
Yeah, so that's important. It's not local and it's not native to this area, and it doesn't have stuff that plants in this area need to survive. You ever wonder why a lot of people around you that don't eat a lot of native foods get more sick?
Right.
I promise you, if you eat out of your garden and if you eat more native stuff like cactus and mesquite, you will be much healthier in Phoenix. Then you go to Canada and you get sick because you won't have an immune system for that area. So eat local is important for your health, but also for your garden's health. Number 2, I would say, is that most of the soils in the big box stores have been shipped and they're being produced somewhere where it's cheap, and they're just, when they finally get to you, they're so old and they're just a bunch of dust.
Yeah.
And it's just a bunch of dust in a bag you're paying $10 a bag for. If you buy a local soil, it's probably still alive. And it probably was produced recently, and it's teeming with microbes that are gonna go right into the earth and start to give your plants food. Does this make sense?
And where would you find it?
I'm born in Canada, so can you guys understand me with my Canadian accent?
Where
It's
would-
not a real Canadian
Where would you
accent.
find local compost?
So Lowe's does have one local compost. It's the only one I recommend from them, called Garden Time. And their offices are in Tempe and their plant is in Phoenix. They're called Grow Well, or also they're called Western Organics. So you can go down to Western Organics at 27th Avenue in Lower Buckeye, and you can get a truck and fill your truck bed up with the soil directly. Bring a tarp, because they legally have to have you cover it with a tarp. And you can bring home a whole truck bed full of compost from Western Organics. Just Google, there's a thing called Google search their number, I don't have it memorized, but Western Organics in Phoenix, 27th Avenue, Lower Buckeye, by the waste treatment plant.
It's, literally the
Next door.
27th, the landfill's there, and then the organic
Yeah.
place is right next to it.
But here's the thing, you gotta get a truck, you gotta go all the way down there, you gotta wait in line for whatever the line is, you gotta wait for the guy to put it in your truck, you gotta wash your truck out, you gotta get home, wheelbarrow. So the same stuff is in the bagged form called Garden Time at Lowe's here in Phoenix area. It wouldn't be in the Lowe's in California, only in Phoenix. Home Depot doesn't have it. Garden Time, it's $6.88 a bag, and it's 2.5 cubic feet. And if you buy that, it's a little bit more because you're buying it by the bag, but you save all this time. And I usually just reuse the bags for dog poop or something.
There you go.
So my mom always told me that my soil would be good if I could make a ball out of it.
There you go.
That's my mom's soil test. So she'd be happy with me right now, and who can I throw this at? So this is a combination of 4 different things: local compost, and then worm castings. So there's a few different local worm casting people. The best place to get local worm castings is to either grow it yourself and do a vermiculture tower or vermiculture bin, grow your own worms, like Jim Carrey did in Dumb and Dumber. Remember, I got worms? Everybody that grows worms for like full time is weird as hell. Because what has happened to you in your life that's made you go to worms? I don't know. But they're usually pretty passionate about soil and gardening. So find a local person on Craigslist. Craigslist is teeming with local worm casting people. Okay? You can also go to A&P Nursery. There's like 4 or 5 of them around town. They're like a local nursery chain, A&P Nursery. And they have got like a pretty cheap bag of organic worm castings for like $13. I'll go there too. And I think Seamus is doing worm castings too, right? Yeah. If you guys go see Seamus, make sure you can't go see him. Let's tell him that Jake Mace, the vegan athlete, said hi and said he's the man. He loves hearing my name. Just kidding, he doesn't like hearing it. But yeah, he has worm castings now too, I think Seamus does. And you can find Seamus on Facebook. Just look up Seamus O'Leary's and you can find his number there. The other thing is, the third ingredient in this is coconut coir. I don't use peat moss. My mom told me to always use peat moss, but she didn't know that peat moss is completely not sustainable. It's like oil. It's like having a hybrid or an electric car powered by solar panels as opposed to gas guzzling. Even I follow Arnold Schwarzenegger on Instagram, and yesterday he was back in Amsterdam. Is that where he's from? Amsterdam? Wait, Austria. Amsterdam. Yeah, he's back in Austria and he's doing some event, and he rolls up in his cliche Hummer, but now he's converted the Hummer to full electric. And he was like, now I have the best of both worlds. I have environment plus I'm cool still. It was so cool. So coconut coir is the same purpose in our garden as peat moss, but coconut coir is very renewable. Okay, so it's also called coconut pith or coconut husk or coconut fiber. A&P Nursery has it. If you get it as a block, it will be $10 in a block. You dunk the block in a bucket of water, and it absorbs the water and becomes a really spongy growing medium.
Use it for your tortoises.
Use it for your tortoises, right? And the sponginess of the coconut coir helps to keep the moisture in your soil. If you guys grow in compost and that's it, it'll turn very compact and hard. The coconut coir keeps it light and fluffy and makes it so that your beds don't dry out in the Phoenix sun. So I always add a little bit more coconut coir than you think because we're in the freaking desert. And water is wicking away all the time. Like you guys are dying right now in the sun, right? And so is your garden. It got to sit out here all day long. That eggplant plant is 3 years old. It's still producing eggplants. It's dying out here. But luckily, it has coconut coir. So when I dream at night, it thanks me in my dreams. Okay? So coconut coir is the third ingredient, and 4 is the rock dust minerals. I had this theory, and I don't know if I'm not a scientist, but I have this theory that our grandparents and our great-grandparents were way stronger than us because the food they were eating was more mineral rich than the ones that we're eating right now. Because even if you go to like Whole Foods and buy organic produce, who knows if it wasn't grown in just a bunch of dust? Because the ground is so overgrown in wherever it was grown, California, whatever, that if you guys go out there to these farms, it's just clay, dirt, and dust. So how can that give the food any minerals? It can't. The minerals are already leached. And then I found an article from the US Senate back in the 1930s in which some senator was doing some kind of a talk about the current agricultural system in the 1930s was being done in a way that by the next generation we'll have no minerals left in the soil. So luckily we've gotten better since the 30s, right? We have less people and better. No, I'm just kidding. So you guys have to put the rock dust in your soil. And I use Azomite. It's got 70 different minerals in it. We got a little bag you can get. It's $10. And you just take the Azomite. It's like chalk, like you would do chalk in a rock climbing gym. And you sprinkle the chalk in your soil. And then you water it in. That's it.
Question on the Azomite.
Yeah.
I got on that from your videos of making my beds. When I made them, I added them.
Yeah.
Now that I've got plants growing in them, is it okay to add it to the top of the soil while
Yeah.
living plants are in
All the
there?
time. Yeah, absolutely.
Moderately,
Because
or
it's
would
just
I go
ground
lighter?
up rock minerals. It's not a fertilizer,
It's
so
not
it
gonna
can't burn
It
anything.
ain't gonna do nothing.
No way. You can add it right in there. Yeah, I've never burned anything with the Azomite. And it's A to Z of minerals, including trace elements, Azomite. And it's got a lot of minerals. So I'm always, every season, when my soil, my raised beds cooks down, you guys have that too? I fill it up again with that same combination. Compost, worm castings, coconut coir, rock dust. The bottom half of the raised bed is straight compost. The top half is like 20%. Let me see what my card says.
Reference.
So I actually had to think one time in my life, and I put it on this card. So this side, the green one, is my exact soil mix and ratios for trees, for fruit trees. And this side is the one for raised bed gardening. So what I do is like the bottom half is all compost. The top half I said 15% coconut, 15% worm, 15% compost, and 5% rock dust. Something like that. And then there's also other instructions on there as well that'll make sure that you guys garden. At some point I would love to move back to Canada and garden there, but while I'm here, I've been here 20, how old am I?
35.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
You may have mentioned it earlier.
I think I guessed. I'm like 24 years or something here. So I know how to garden here pretty well by now. So I would love to see if I can garden somewhere more, Pacific Northwest and that sort of thing. But for now, what I have found is that ratio works great for Phoenix area and allows moisture to stay in. Like this bed got watered for a little bit this morning and it's still nice and wet, and it'll be wet all day long. One water in the morning, and I've got my new nasturtium flowers just budding up there, beets, carrots, and these beds will all be my leafy greens and salad greens. All this is my my Jerusalem artichokes starting to come back up. See them all sprouting there? So yeah, everything's kind of in transition right now because I'm transitioning the summer stuff in for the winter stuff. Questions about raised bed gardens?
This is kind of a general about the trees and the gardens. Do you use humic acid or fish emulsion? And if so, how?
I don't use fish emulsion because I'm vegan, right? But I do have a sub pump, like a little portable pump that I can drop in my fish pond. And then like 4 times a year, I'll just water the trees with the fish pond and fill the pond up with tap water. So my fish pond does give fish poop to my trees sometimes, but I don't ever pour the fish emulsion in. I do use liquid seaweed. I use that, like liquid
On your
kelp or
gardens
seaweed.
your trees?
Mostly just my trees, because I find that my garden with this mixture is really awesome. But I do compost tea as well. Compost tea is where you take like a bag of compost, like a burlap bag of compost, put an air stone in it, like a fish tank stone, and put it in a bucket overnight. And then the bubbling effect makes that water full of microbes, and you water your garden with that. So I got big 300-gallon IBC totes that when it rains, the rainwater goes from the roof into these totes, fills them up, and I can drop the compost in there and bubble it up in this huge tank, and then it's gravity fed to a hose, and that just waters the stuff. But you don't have to do that if you're not crazy. You can just water your garden. But I would definitely put the 4 things to this soil right here, and I have an awesome ball right now with this guy. So those 4 things. What is it?
Worm castings, compost, coconut core, rock dust.
We should be chanting that. That's the mixture. I know you guys are going to go home and you're going to try to shortcut it. You're going to try to do just compost, and you're going to always be like a little struggling, you know? I tried to cut corners, and 2 years in I was like, I'm going to do my friend John Kohler said to do, which was put rock dust in there, and boom, my garden grew really well that year.
What was that video you did about raised beds? You put all that stuff in it and you said this will for decades to come.
Yeah,
Like the first
and I find that now what's happening is that if I just keep the water on my drip system once a day, the seeds of the previous season grow on their own.
Right.
So all my cilantro, my dill, my leafy greens,
I got
all my
basil coming
broccolis,
up all
my
over
beets,
my
my Swiss
backyard.
chard, my basil, and the borage. It's just totally out of control every season, and that's the kind of garden that I like,
Your
because
first
then it's
yield will be healthier, and then from there it'll just continue.
Yeah.
You're getting a leg up.
And think about the plants that have been growing for multiple seasons in my garden. How healthy is that food for me living in the area?
Right.
So now my immune system is really well suited for the desert, because I'm out in the sun all day, and I'm also eating food out of my garden, which is right here. So kind of like I'm really well suited to live in this neighborhood right now. It's like my Shangri-La, right? If I leave this neighborhood, I age very quickly. Yes.
What did you say you got the Azomite?
We have a $10 bag you can get today if you just want, like, for one raised bed. A $10 bag is great, and we'll feed like maybe 10 or so fruit trees.
I read in the Secrets of the Soil book that it takes out pesticides from the soil.
I would imagine, just like putting a bunch of minerals in us cleanses our organs and stuff like that. So I would imagine. Yeah, so try the $10 bag. Do one garden with the Azomite or the rock dust and one without, and see what happens. And it's just $10, so try it. They have bigger bags too, but you got to go find them somewhere. I know Seamus has got them too.
A quick question. You
Yes.
said drip system once a day. How much water does it actually take?
In the summer, I do twice a day,
Okay.
like 10 minutes per time. I don't know I just
So
have
it's
a
time frame.
I get my irrigation from Sprinkler World,
Okay.
and if you guys go there, better prices than Home Depot by far.
Hands down.
Hands down. And they also, Home Depot
And they're smarter.
tries to rip you off with those little, like, what are they called? The anchors or the stakes. The little tiny stakes. At Sprinkler World, it's like 10 cents each, and you can buy like a ton of them. At Home Depot, like $1 a piece. I'm like, your Home Depot should have better buying power than that. But go to Sprinkler World, get a 1/4-inch line, the 1/4-inch line with a drip emitter every 6 inches. That's what I use. You can see it right here. It's the 1/4-inch line. It has a drip emitter every 6 inches, and it has stakes every foot or so. And every season, I pull the irrigation out, I mend the beds, put my ratio back in there of compost, worm, rock dust, and coconut core. Put the irrigation line back on, and I'm good to go.
Are you just building right over the old soil, or are you moving that soil to?
I never dig the soil up.
Good.
Always keep it there and just put more on top, because you don't want to upset that civilization beneath the soil.
Mycorrhiza.
The mycorrhiza, yeah. We're gonna talk about mycorrhiza back there too in a second. Yes.